Sisters chatting with each other, getting to know one another, talking about issues that we're all facing, good, bad, indifferent. Let's talk about it from one sister to another. Let's talk about it.
Hey.
Hey, how are
How are
you?
you? I'm good. I feel like I'm a little off on the camera here. I don't know what's There we go. There we go. No half faces, none of that stuff.
Right. Good to see you. It's been a while.
It has been a while. We've been busy.
Yeah. And it's already October. We got less than
Right.
30 days for election. I'm tired. Too much going on, but thank
Wow.
God we're able to see it.
Right. Listen, I want to start off by first thanking our listeners, our audience for just hanging in there with us. We have been like super busy, but it's been a good busy. I thank God for his traveling mercies, right? We both been doing a
Right.
lot of traveling, but it's all good. And thank you. Thank you to all of you who have, put up with us for these last few months.
That's just
With
what
these
they've been
changes,
doing.
right? Changing schedules and stuff. But thank you so much. But I feel like Wanda, that because of the content that we have created and put out, that people really appreciate that. Because it's
Absolutely.
not that we just do things just to do it. We don't just get on here just to talk and hear ourselves talk. We want people to really have that feeling of sister friend. Like we are here to have those discussions
Right.
that you might not have elsewhere, or that's something you just need to know or just be encouraged about, right?
Right. Or maybe you find out somebody's going through what you're going through or been through what you're
Yeah,
going through.
yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you.
And
Um,
thank you again.
yeah. So we want you just to remind you that throughout the broadcast today or any day, you please put your comments and questions. You can definitely drop them in the chat, whether it's right here in the chat on Facebook or on YouTube or Twitch, whatever platform you're on. We want to invite you to do that, and definitely tell us where you're from. You might want to just drop in your name, say hello, greetings, whatever. Tell us it's your birthday. I don't know, whatever you want to say, and just tell us where you from, because we're so glad that you are tuning in on tonight, right?
Right. Amen.
And so we have a topic on tonight that is, I
Juicy. I don't know
hey,
another word. Juicy, serious.
it's something that needs to be talked about. It's something that
Absolutely.
people have swept under the rug. It's a conversation that's not easy to have all the time.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
as sister friends, we can have this talk, right?
We certainly can. That's what
Yep.
we're here for.
So let's talk about it. So we want to bring on a special guest, right, tonight that's going to be on the panel with us. And we're so excited to have her. She has been through, if I can say it, hell and hot water. Let's just go on and say it, right? Been through a
Right.
lot. Because a lot of times we don't talk about the stuff we've been through because whether it's because we don't want to, shame, or because we don't want to talk about it, because people have told us not to talk about it, all kinds of reasons. But I thank God for this woman of God because she's not, she is a warrior in God. I'm gonna put it like this: she's a
Amen.
warrior in God. And so we want to bring her on. And even as she's coming on, we also want to say this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And she is also a breast cancer, I don't never say survivor, I say overcomer. She's a breast cancer
Amen. So do I.
overcomer. So welcome Nicole Edwards to the platform.
Hello.
Yay.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us on this panel discussion tonight. So Wanda, you want to tell them our topic on tonight before we get started?
Now I'm gonna have to read it because I can't remember what it was, but I know it's dealing with overcoming or bad
That's okay.
relationships.
Silent struggles. That's what we're talking about.
That's it.
Silent struggles on tonight. Matter of fact, I need to put it up on the screen anyway. So it's silent struggles, the invisible scars of bad relationships.
Right.
So, and we always we've been talking about so many topics around this. So, we landed here on silent struggles, the invisible scars of bad relationships. And we want to just start off by putting it out there to our audience. Like when you hear, and we're going to talk about it too right here, right? With the panel.
Absolutely.
We're discussing it. So when you hear the word relationship, what comes to mind? When you hear the word relationship, what comes to mind? So we want to put that out there to our listening audience. Those that I see you on YouTube, Facebook, even on Twitch. Thank you so much. So we want you to drop it in the chat as well, so we can see what you feel. What's your response to that when you see the word or hear the word relationship?
And you can have more than response, because I know, especially as
Right.
women, depending on who the relationship is with, that brings
Mm-hmm.
about a different
Right.
scenario, or something else
Yeah.
comes to mind. So put
Yeah.
whatever you think in there and let's talk about it.
Yeah. Because one of the things I think about when I hear the word relationship, it automatically brings me to my personal experiences, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's what relationship is, personal. It's deep. And we've been through a lot of things when it comes to relationship. It's not always a male and female relationship. Sometimes it's a relationship dealing with, parents, siblings, friends, co-workers, all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But tonight we want to really uncover those relationships that we're talking about on tonight, those silent struggles, those and scars, because and it's not that, again, it's not that it have to necessarily be a husband and wife or a man and a woman, but it because scars can come from sibling
The hell
rivalry, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all those things. So that's what I think of relationship. Automatically takes me to my personal experience, that individuality, the things that I've been through, personally.
Right. Well, pretty much that that is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
Even though we can have relationships with some of the same people, the
Yeah.
relationship I have with them is still going to be different from the relationship you have with them, because it is a personal thing. I mean,
Yeah.
even our relationship with God, that's a personal relationship.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
you
That's
know,
true. So Nicole, when you hear the word relationship, what do you think of?
I think of connections and
Mm-hmm.
ties, like ties that bind you
Yeah.
together. Family, associations,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
That's interesting that you said those, all those words: ties, bonds, connections.
Mm-hmm.
That's deep right there, because we talk about relationships a lot of times, those ungodly soul ties that
Mm-hmm.
we get involved in, because people don't understand. I don't think they get the depth of what that means when you're in a relationship. It really is a bond. It really is a connection. It is a tie, because just like even with friendships, you really depend on that person. You have
Right.
spent time with that person. You have had some deep communication with that person. So relationships are serious. And even as I think about as a young child, growing up, you choose, sometimes who you connect with, even as a young child. It's not always like, you ever see children, babies even, when you bring them over to certain people, how they may sometimes pull back.
that's right.
Like, oh, they all
Right.
and not saying
Mm-hmm.
anything, because sometimes children can just be funny like that. That's true too. Then there are other times where they are discerning things, I feel, even in that age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no limit
Mm-hmm.
to the gifts of God, so they can definitely discern whether what spirit's in operation.
Right. Right. That's
Yes,
true. Yeah.
it's
So,
true.
and thinking about and going past the teenage stage into the adulthood, I think that how we are brought up, the environment that we're in, has a lot to do how we build relationships as an adult.
Absolutely.
It does.
Yeah.
Not only that, our experiences from past relationships, kind of gear us
Mm-hmm.
to how the next relationship is going to be,
Yeah.
or what kind of walls we've built now
Right.
Because of
Walls.
those
Yeah.
past experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And think about scars too. Like I thought about that even in our topic, silent struggles, the invisible scars of that relationship. And when I think about scars, scars have a purpose too. And we
Absolutely.
could talk more about that later, but it does have a purpose in even when you are wounded or when you have surgery, right? All those things. And like you get a scab when you fall, you get a scab, you say, don't pick at it, don't pick at it. Because then you pick at it, sometimes it begins to bleed and it opens it up for infection
Right.
because you removed the scab before everything was healed up properly.
Right.
It's
And even though
different.
the scab is ugly, it's there for protection. It's there
Right.
to help that healing process. You
Yeah.
know.
Mhm. Sometimes,
So
sometimes our scars, when we pick at them and then they become festered and infected
Mm-hmm.
and then become worse and
Right.
and reopen, and you'll notice that it becomes another sore. It's
mhm.
almost like it's a different sore, or it expands. It
Yeah.
becomes a larger sore
Mm-hmm.
when you pick at it. It
Right.
becomes even bigger.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. That's interesting. It reminds me of like it spreads, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Now where it was affecting one area of our life, now it's affecting other areas of our life.
Hmm.
So ladies, let's just get right down to it.
You feel the
because I'm
pain all over again.
right. Because I'm sitting up here thinking, this is bringing back, memories for me in terms of my testimony and what I have come up in terms of relationship. Because I thank God, number one, that I have a husband now that is, I should say, who he is. He is who he is. And he was, even when we first got married, I remember because of my past hurts, past pains, situations, things that I was encountering, I wasn't like, I was timid. I would walk on eggshells about certain things because I wasn't real, even though I knew him and I knew that wasn't him, right? But yet and still, because of the hurt, because of the pain, because of the trauma, that really, kind of it hurt me. It hurt me, and it put a barrier. That's what it put a barrier between us. Because here I am, thinking I'm in, got the love of my life, so to speak, and that's another. Uh, I guess it's a mistake that we make as young women, not just young women, but some men make it too. But we have this fairy tale mentality where we think like we're gonna,
Mm.
meet our Prince Charming and he's gonna sweep us off our feet and everything's gonna be wonderful. And prior
Hmm.
to me getting married, I was in another relationship where it wasn't so wonderful. It was wonderful in the beginning, but towards the end it got crazy.
Mm. Mm.
Where it ended up, I ended up almost losing my life over it. And, I think about that sometimes. I say, but for the grace of God, and I'm grateful for that. But a lot of women, they don't see the signs, one, but also sometimes they see the signs and ignore it. It's like, oh, well, it's going to get better.
Yep.
He'll do better. I'll do better, right? It'll be okay, that kind of thing. So we have to remember that our worth, because the Bible talks about that, is far above rubies, right? We are
Hmm.
apple of God's eye. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. We have to remember all those things. And I think that's why it's important for us to instill that in our children. When they're young, tell them they're beautiful. Tell them their worth. Let them know how much God loves them, how much we love them. So that when somebody else come along and say, oh, I love you, they'll check that up against what love really supposed to look like. Is
Right.
that love patient? Is that love kind? Is that love long suffering? Or is that love, kicking me around? Is that love calling me names? Is that love abusing me in any kind of way? Keeping me from my family. All those things we have to think about. Someone said relationship is trust. Definitely trust. Definitely. Thank you for that. But yeah. Nicole, I see you going to say something.
Yeah. Just going off of what you were saying, you were talking about the relationship. So it brought me back to how I started off in a relationship with someone prior to my marriage, and I still have some things that were so deeply rooted,
Mm-hmm.
even from some things that I dealt with that I experienced as a child, because I was also molested as a child. So, because of those
Yeah.
situations, I also got into a domestic abusive relationship as a teenager, which carried over into my adult life
Wow.
prior to my marriage. So all of those scars and those things were so deeply rooted that I still have some things that are so embedded in my subconscious that they bother me in the middle of the night sometimes. I don't I don't notice it, but my husband does.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
My husband does, but we had a conversation about it, and I told, he knows all my history, so
Right.
he
Right.
knows, and he says, because he'll come, because we sleep together, of course, and
Right.
he'll
I
come
hope.
next, yeah, of course, and he'll come and he'll wrap his arms around me, and sometimes there's a reaction, and he'll go, he'll tell me the next day that, were you fighting something in the middle of the night, and
Right.
I say, well, I don't remember, and I apologize, but there's some things that that are so, that are there because there
Yeah,
was
they're
someone who
embedded.
would
Right.
sneak into
Yeah.
my room in the middle of
Mhm.
the night, you
Right.
know to bother me and to touch me in the middle of the night when I was a child. So sometimes
Mm.
there's that
Yeah.
fight that
Right.
Right.
just rears up,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And those are those things that are long lasting sometimes,
So
But
absolutely.
I'm thankful that he's so understanding, and we continue to pray that those things don't they're not there every night, and they're not there all the time, you
Right.
know but they do rise every once in the blue moon.
Yeah.
Because it's bedded
Because the
in your
enemy,
psyche.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't, even in my waking, I still can't be touched in a certain area
Yeah.
on my body. I
Mm.
just can't.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting that you said that? Because for a long time, it bothered me. Like, you go to the doctor and you have to like strip pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Like, it was okay for me to like just, head to toe, but don't ask me just the bottom.
Mm.
Don't ask me just to like, either I'm taking it all off or nothing. It just, and then just recently, like about 2 years ago, I understood why.
Mm.
Wow.
Isn't it like these things trigger you? Like, and I guess the people in the office like thinking I was like cuckoo or something, because I was like, I'm not doing that. It's funny, it didn't bother me up until, like I said, like recently. And I guess I should say it started bothering me about 5 years ago, but I realized why about 2 years ago. Put it that way. And the doctor said, "Why is that a thing?" I just had this feeling about it. Like, this is bothering me. Why? So I don't know if anybody gets that. Everybody had their own thing, but that was just mine. Yeah. Yeah.
That's very
Wow.
interesting.
Yeah. I thought so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it even brings us over into the church, right? Because we talk about relationships, we're talking about, things from our past. And, we forget, we get into church and we forget sometimes that people have passed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Hmm.
And not just past in terms of what we did as sinners, but things that were done to us.
Exactly.
Right.
Those struggles.
Right, that we had nothing to do with, that we had no part in, that we didn't cause it, we didn't ask for it, we didn't know nothing, but we have to deal with it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, because something you said about relationships, about we may see the signs and ignore them, and that was my case in more than one situation, where you saw the signs, and I'm thinking, okay, God, especially after salvation, and you both saved, you going, okay, God, I know you're going to handle this, right? But the same thing that we always teach people is that people don't change unless they absolutely want to, right? So even though
Right.
I may want you to change, or I may want the situation to change, I can't
Yeah.
change that other person. And unless they
Right.
want to be changed, they're not going to change. So for
Yeah.
me, one of the things that I noticed I carried into the next relationship is how much I watch people. I watch their behaviors, right?
Yeah.
So for me, your behavior is a trigger, because there were certain behaviors my ex had that I knew what
Mm-hmm.
that meant. So I watched your behaviors, and what I had to
Mm-hmm.
learn to do was to realize that those things that were a trigger for me weren't necessarily, they weren't doing the same exact thing. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
I had to watch myself as well as me watching them,
Yeah.
so not to put on them what the other person did to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that was a very
Right.
conscious decision that I had to make, because it was real
Yeah.
easy to get to that place where you ready to, flip out, go off, whatever it is,
Yeah.
because of what you see. But the reasoning behind it was so
Wow.
totally different that I
Yeah.
can't allow you. And that's what happens with a lot of, especially as women. I see it in relationships all the time. And I think that's probably why I learned to be very cautious about that, is
Yeah.
that we take into the next, that baggage we carry, we take it into the next relationship, and we start
Mm-hmm.
blaming or putting that blame on someone who didn't offend us.
Right. Right. That's deep right there. That's deep.
Mhm.
And again, I'm looking at the title and I'm saying silent struggles. Isn't that interesting how a lot of times we struggle silently? Why do we do that? Why do we struggle silently? Why don't we share? Why don't we? And I know the sister said it earlier about trust. And that's so true that she taught relationships, but even in that, we want to trust the person in that relationship, but then we lack the trust because
And,
of the hurt.
and it's not just the hurt. I think
Oh yeah, it's more than that, right?
especially as women, how we, especially our age group, because millennials are a little different. Millennials and that beyond, they're a little different. But for us, we're taught our place as a woman, right? What we're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to
Mhm.
do, what we're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so if we go outside of that box that we're supposed to live in, we feel guilt and shame for anything that happens to us.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
said, whether it was our fault or not, and it's usually not our fault.
Yeah.
We feel guilt and shame for what they did to us, instead of them feeling guilt and
Right.
shame for what they did
Right.
to us.
Yeah.
So we carry, as I'm sure we've all heard it, because many preachers preach it, about how women are incubators. If you
Mm-hmm.
give us something, we nurturers. You give us
Right.
something, we're going to make it grow. So
Yeah.
even those bad things that we incubate and nurture, we cause them to grow in our psyche.
That's
Like
true.
Nicole was saying, it was deep rooted. Well, some of it, is just that we've given life to it.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's, some of the cautionary things we have to be mindful of as women,
Yeah.
especially going to the next relationship.
Yeah. That's
And
true.
it takes time for some of us.
Yeah. I see that we have a comment. As a kid, I struggled to establish healthy relationships due to my traumas caused by my family. As a kid, I didn't understand why. I had to mature so fast as an 8-year-old. All I wanted to be at that point was an innocent kid. It took me 22 years to be able to speak to my family about my traumas. After being molested by my mom's brother, it was hard for me to be able to socialize with others, or even in my dating life. I had really low self-esteem and confidence. I had to find, I had to find help. Yeah, we have to find help. And that's the thing I think we forget sometimes, is to find help.
Absolutely.
For
And I,
sure.
it's such for a long time, even in the church, I think the church has caught up to it now, not everywhere, but it's more acceptable, is more advocated for. Get the help, get help, that got the right help.
Right, right.
Yeah. So we
I know
definitely
when I
want
went through my divorce, I went and got help.
yeah.
I went to a counselor, although I felt like I was counseling her instead of her counseling me. I'd still get I still went to see a counselor because I
Yeah.
had, after being married for 23 years and in that particular relationship for 25
Hmm.
years, I had to learn how to be
Yes.
single again.
Right.
And
Right.
that was, I hadn't been single in so long, I didn't know how to be single.
Yeah. Right.
I getting out of the abusive relationship that I was in, there was an incident, one of the incidents that happened, um, because he was very manipulative,
Hmm.
and one of the things that he would do this was after I had left, after I had finally gotten out. One of the things that he would do to try to pull me in was to harm himself or to create a scene as if he was harming himself
Yeah. Yeah.
to try to pull me back in. And so we had ended up at an emergency room one time, the two of us
Hmm.
together. And the doctor said to me, he said, listen, I'm going to tell you this right now. Stay away from him and go get yourself some help. He said, because he's manipulating you and you need to go get some therapy. He
Hmm.
said, and that's the bottom
Mm,
line. He said, and I'm gonna leave it like that. And he walked away from me.
Yeah, that's good though. You need people like that to
yeah,
like
right.
even to sprinkle those little things along the way because sometimes people I think they come in too hard, but you have to be careful, especially if someone's in a domestic violence situation. Um, you don't want to cause more harm to them, right? So you got to be careful how you approach that. So I think it's good that people like a doctor who can like sprinkle those little suggestions that those words of encouragement. That's why I encourage all the ladies tonight to encourage each other tonight online because you don't know what someone else is going through. Sometimes we
Right.
sit in silence, and this is not to shine a light so much on anybody or point fingers, but sometimes we even sit here in silence, right, on
That's
this
right.
platform. And that's great if you're listening in, but sometimes somebody needs to hear an encouraging word. Somebody needs to see in the chat, you're beautiful. You're worth more. We care about you. You're my sister friend. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who's sitting silently and silently in trouble right now. Who
Right.
may
Right.
Right.
need to hear something from you, letting them know it's okay to get help. It's okay. I can tell somebody recently it's okay to walk away.
Mhm.
It's
Absolutely.
okay. You got people who have your back, even though it wasn't an abusive situation was a situation they needed to get out of because it was causing them harm mentally. And
Right.
that's abuse right there. Sometimes it's
Oh,
Mhm.
mental abuse,
absolutely.
sometimes, right, that's not always physical.
Yeah.
So we want to
Absolutely.
encourage those on the platform tonight, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, or whether you just drop somebody inbox, encourage them. Let them know that you're their sister friend. So yeah.
Right.
Wow, 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 wow. I just want to, and I know we have about 10 minutes left, but I thought, Wanda, we would talk about even some warning signs that we saw, right? Because sometimes we see the signs, sometimes we don't. But I feel like there's always a sign there,
Oh,
but sometimes we just
absolutely.
miss it.
Absolutely.
Because I
And
know I missed them big time.
I would have to, well, I don't know. I can't say that I missed the signs because I
We didn't want to
absolutely
see it.
saw them.
I don't know.
Yeah, part of it, it was I didn't want to see them, but I saw them. The other part of it was that I wanted to believe it would get better.
Yeah.
Now to throw even a more monkey wrench in there, I felt that I was bound by the word.
Mm, wow.
Mhm.
Because
Wow.
we
Yeah.
grew up being taught that God hated divorce, and that is the word, right?
Yeah.
But there's a whole
Yeah.
lot of sin God hates, but He still forgives for things, right?
Right.
So you throw that in there and my relationship was very much so abusive. It wasn't a physical abuse, but it was definitely
Right.
a mental and a verbal abuse. Thank God for my father who raised me to be able to withstand anything a man would throw at me. At the time, I didn't understand what my father was doing. As a matter of fact, it called rift between me and my father for a while. But after I got older, I understood he was preparing me for such
Mm,
a time. It got to the point, where I would be the blame for everything that went wrong in the marriage. And it would be pounded in there, right? And at first, now, as much as I can argue, I don't like to argue. So I would walk away from those times. You know what? Because for me, it's a defense thing. If you take me to that point, I'm at the point of defending myself. So I would walk away from those conversations, and he would follow me to wherever I went and just keep going and going and going until it got to the point that I would blame me before he would, just to get him past that.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So, when you start, and plus you compound that with having been molested as a young person, not just by one person, but two that were close people to our family, and then having been raped in college. You compound all that stuff together. So I was always in defense mode.
Yeah.
Like Nicole was saying, you can't just roll up on her like that.
Right.
The truth for me, I was just always in defense mode. So I was always looking for what would go wrong.
Yeah.
And that itself was not good because, as some people say, I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just always waiting. And it was like it was intentionally being held by my face where I could see it, but never drop. That was how it felt. So the abuse for me was more of a mental thing than it was, or an emotional and mental thing than it was the physical thing, because I think he knew in the back of his mind that this one here is a little crazy. So if I put my hands on it, one of us might die.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to be me.
Wow. I was thinking of something I heard Nicole say earlier. I think it was you who talked about in your relationship, he would like act like he's going to hurt himself or some kind of big to do something, and that's called, I can't think what it's called right now. I remember when we had one of the therapists on, she talked about that. And I remember I think when my eyes really kind of, I should say I woke up. And when he was saying he was going to kill himself. And my response, it might not have been right. Listen, I didn't know Jesus, y'all. I said, okay, go ahead, do it. Because because I didn't feel like he was really going to do that. And because that game was old now, you know what I'm saying? It got old, and I was like, wait, what is this?
There's that manipulation. They all use it's some form of manipulation that they use to get us to that point.
Right.
Yes.
Because after that, once he realized I wasn't going for it, he tried to take me out. See, that's when I was like, okay. And I thank God. Listen, what you call the thing that was the flapjack, right? Flapjack, right? The thing that I got from my brother actually had given me one a couple of years before that, and I always kept it on my vanity next to my bed. So when the attack came, he broke into my apartment and tried to take me out. I reached for that and knocked everything I could out of him.
Now I know that's right.
I was like, I shall live and not die. Okay, I'm not going nowhere.
Oh God.
So we have to fight. I mean, it's humorous when you think about it, but I know it's not a laughing matter. But it is humorous when you think about the stuff sometimes that.
When you're on the other side, because when you're going through it, ain't nothing about it funny.
Right.
Yes.
You're not laughing, but now
when you're going through it, it's survival mode.
Right.
Absolutely, because like I can remember a time in that same vein. I said, because we were in the hallway, and he said, "Oh well, I'm gonna go. What was his idea? He's got these needles. I'm gonna go take this drug, and I'm gonna take himself out." I said, "Go do it." Then he said, "Oh well, you gonna join me?" So then he decided to take a machete to my back and to my throat, and I said, "Well, let's just do it. I'm done. You're done. I'm done. Let's just have at it then."
See?
Let's be done with it. You want to be done? I want to be done because I'm sick of this.
Right.
I'm sick of this, and I'm sick of you. So let's be done.
Right.
And I think sometimes that takes away their power too, because at some point that shows that fear is not there anymore. I'm not afraid anymore.
Right.
You know, you can't no longer keep me in this fear. So we're fighting back. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I do recognize, ladies, that everybody don't have the fight in them.
True.
And you know, that's why we share this. That's why we do this. That's why we continue to have these conversations for those women that may not have to fight yet. You know, we not only pray for them, we want to continue to encourage them and let them know that there is hope. There is something better on the other side, like you say, on the other side.
Right.
So how do we start this healing journey? How did you start your healing journey, Nicole?
Well, first I got out.
Hello.
That was the most important thing.
Right.
I had to get out. And for me, you know, I had left several times, but he kept finding me. No matter where I went, he kept finding me and moving himself back in to my place. And but then I had finally got out to a place where he didn't find me. But then he used my children against me. He used the children against me. So the way to healing was first for me was therapy and not seeing him anymore. the utter removal of him from my life. The complete removal.
Yeah.
And me not having to deal with him on any level.
Severing that soul tie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because even with trying to be a civil individual with him, it wasn't working. With custody and all of that, with the children, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Even trying to, do visitations and stuff like that, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
Because he would literally threaten my life every time we would exchange the children. And then one time he decided, solely on his own, I'm not giving you the children back. I'm keeping them.
See, this is real stuff, y'all. Yeah.
So then I had to go, take it to the courts then.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I always tell, especially young women who, not married and they have children. I would say, look, you didn't make sure you got your legal stuff together.
Your children are not your own.
Right.
Unless the court say that.
Look, young men too, because some of these women are crazy.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly right.
It goes both ways, yeah.
It does. Absolutely.
Wow. I think that what you said too for that healing piece is one, getting out of the situation, getting help, and surrounding yourself too by women who know their worth and who can be an encouragement to you.
Right.
A lot of times we hang around people who are going through things that we're going through, and it becomes a pity party almost. It becomes like a cycle of, and then, sometimes it could be strengthening, but most of the time I have not seen it. That's not the way I've seen it for the most part.
Right.
But sometimes it can be strengthening to be around those of like mind, but most of the time those who have gotten out and they're sharing their how they was able to escape, or they're sharing resources or that kind of thing. So we definitely want to know there is a turning point.
Absolutely.
Right?
There is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just want to speak to those two, and Wanda, you probably can chime in on this as well. Those who are have gone through a divorce. I just really feel this in my spirit right now, that don't feel like that's it. Don't feel like there's no love for you. Don't feel like you can't love again. So I think that, and not just divorce, but those who are widowed and widowers.
Absolutely.
We get sometime in a rut, if I can use that word, or we get to a place where we don't want to try again, even, or we've been hurt. So, because it's not always hurt or the scars, and it's a scar, but it's a different kind of scar, right?
Right.
So, but don't feel like because you've been through that you're not going to experience the love again,
Right.
or even new love.
It goes back to what I was saying earlier about don't take your anger or your frustration
Yeah.
into the new relationship, because that's not the same man. That's a
Right.
totally different person.
Right.
My philosophy is that every man starts at 100%, because he's not the one that hurts me. Until he does something to me, that's when that 100% might become 90 or whatever percentage, right? But at the starting point, this is a new man who has not done you wrong.
Yeah.
You can't hold him at fault for
Yeah.
what the other man did or the other woman, whatever the case may be. You can't hold them at fault. You have to give that man his own chance,
Yeah.
his own time.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's one of the things Nicole said that is important, is that, you know, because we think that because we have children with the other person, we have to be in their lives to some point. No, you really don't. You can meet at the police station and exchange the kids, right? Like Nicole was saying, we don't have to have any conversation. I do not talk to my ex, not because I hate him. We just don't need to talk.
Right.
Our kids are grown. If you need to know something about the kids, call them yourself. There's no communication we need to have. None. So you know, and it's like Cassandra said earlier, it's okay to get out. Divorce is one of those things I think we, especially as women of color, be it Black, Hispanic, whatever, we struggle with because of the way we're brought up, right? Especially if your parents have been married for 42 years, 50 years, whatever the case may be. You don't want to be a statistic. And I think we get that embedded in our minds that we don't want to become a statistic, and we stay in these very unhealthy relationships. Cassandra could tell you, when I was in my marriage, my migraines were so bad, I would get them at least 75% of the time. And they were so bad, my doctor had me on both Vicodin and Ferrocet, because the pain was just that crazy. But it was literally destroying my health. Physically, I was becoming very ill. So it was for my own benefit, health-wise, as well as mentally, to be done. When I got to that point where I was done, be done. You know, leave however you need to leave. If that means you leave stuff behind, you can start over. There is no age limit to recreating yourself and starting over. Personally, you know, there's days I feel like I'd like to be married again, and then there's days I'd be like, y'all got this. I'll be watching some marriages going, yeah, I'm good. But at the same time, you know, I loved being a wife. I did love being married. It was just the person I was married to that obviously wasn't one.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to put yourself out there again. Look, love hurts regardless of who you're with. You're going to get challenges. You're going
closest to you, right?
So, you know, you might as well enjoy it if you can. I'm just
wow. But listen, I know our time is up. We want to just, first of all, thank you, Nicole, for joining our panel tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you, and we got to have you back again, because this topic can go on and on. But we'll find another. We'll find another topic.
Yes, we can go part 2 to this. Just it may not be next month, but there's so much that you know we can really dive into. People, we kind of scratched the surface tonight, so next time we get details.
Right.
But we're going to let you hang out with us for a few minutes while we close out, right?
Okay.
Thank you to all of our listeners on tonight, our audience. We appreciate you. Those that chimed in and those that didn't, we appreciate you. Thank you. We want you to please do go and share, like, comment,
subscribe.
Yes, don't forget to subscribe. Please do that. We want to make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow us on Facebook and whatever other platform we have.
Yeah, I don't know the other one, so I'm not even gonna try to attempt it. Twitch or something. Is that it?
Yeah, Twitch. Yeah. We want to encourage all of you to definitely look out for those warning signs for toxic relationships. And most importantly, rebuild your worth, rebuild your self-esteem. rebuild your trust and confidence, as someone in our audience said earlier. We want to rebuild that. So thank you again. And as my sister friend Wanda always says, the conversation doesn't have to stop here, right?
You can put comments in the chat with each other. Look, DM us, we'll chat with you as well. So we want you to definitely have that conversation. Go and be healed. Do not stay in that place, that place of bondage. Free yourself. So until next time, sister friend, can we talk?
Sister friends, let's talk about it. Good night.
One another, talking about issues that we're all facing, good, bad, indifferent. Let's talk about it from one sister to another. Let's talk about it.